Are we good if we skip the break? Okay. You can hear me? Okay, yeah, I should plug this in. Hey, everyone can hear me, right? Okay, I should pull out my notes so I don't forget what I need to say. So my name's Ben. I live in Montreal. I lived there for a couple of years. I'm actually from Kentucky, but I live in Montreal, and I work at this company called Autodesk. And Autodesk did not pay me to work on this, but they are paying me while I'm here at this conference today. So thank you, Autodesk. And I'm just going to talk about this library I built. I built it not alone. Like I got some help from some really great open source people. But this is a talk about this library called Cassette. It's less about how it works under the hood. It's a bit more how you would use it as a library consumer. But I'm hoping through presenting this, I can share some ideas that I have about how you can build a good API, that a good declarative API that can take something classically imperative, like how you manage media playback in a browser, and make it nicer. By the way, it's my first time in Ottawa. Anyone like Ottawa? Great enthusiasm in the audience, and it's also my first time speaking at like a real conference. Like when I say real, I mean like y'all actually paid to be here, right? So I'm honored. And I was looking at the website for this. I was trying to figure out what talk I was going to submit. I was like, wait, why does this look familiar? And then it dawned on me. Oh, that's what this is about. Yeah? I did some more research and found out this is a conference about JavaScript, so I canceled my talk about the history of labor in the tech industry, but we can talk about that offline if you want. Anyway, so this talk is about Cassette. Helps you create media players for the web. It's a React component library. Anyone use React? Yeah? Okay. This is going to assume you kind of know maybe how React or at least HTML works. You can talk to me after if you get confused. It's not too deep. But it's a media player component library you can just kind of throw into a web page with a playlist of media data, and it should work with no config. It'll look like this. It's built to work well on mobile, so you can just throw it on a phone. Touch controls work. It integrates with the system UI and whatever device you're using if it supports the media session API. So it's pretty cool that you can yeah. So I originally created this because I sometimes make music for video games in my off time, and when I'm not spending hundreds of unpaid hours on open source projects, and I wanted to play music on my website, and I kind of wanted it to like integrate, look nice, prove that I know how to make this thing myself instead of just using some other thing. So I decided to build a little widget for playing media, and then I put it on GitHub, and people started to use it, and I started getting some feature requests like, oh, it would be really cool if we had a volume control. My original version didn't have one. And I started thinking about adding a volume control, but there's no one has any consistency about how to actually do this. And there's some reasons for this. And one is that there's all these different variants, and if you try to convert any of these to a mobile device, it's actually really hard. The Facebook style and the Twitter style works better, but it's something that's actually really hard to do. So I knew that if I implemented a volume control one way, it might not solve everyone's use cases. And it seems like people wanted to use this library because it smooths over a lot of the annoying parts of dealing with media in the browser, but it's but there needs to be some configurability beyond the the booleans I was offering. So what this project has turned into is something where you can kind of start with a simple thing that works, but it's also there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can actually implement in terms of UI and how the actual media works. So the goal is to maintain that plug and play philosophy, but it allows the user to kind of blow the lid off, but like in increments, right? In a controlled sort of declarative way, not sometimes when you have these like powerful pieces of software, you've all used them where they're just extremely esoteric, and I'm trying to not do that. So the new version of Cassette, which is the one that kind of tries to get at this, separates into multiple packages so you can use some. You don't have to use all of them if you don't want to. So there's the core package, which is the guts. There's the player, which is like the default UI implementation. You saw that earlier. There's this components package, which gives you some sort of low-level primitives that are relevant to building media UI, which you might want, like progress bars for like adjusting volume or adjusting the current time. A marquee. Marquees are maligned by the citizens of the internet, but they're really useful for media players. And if you use almost any media player interface today, you'll see they're actually still using them. And for titles, the really long titles that need to fill a set width amount of space. There's also this hooks thing. You probably might have been thinking, are you gonna talk about hooks? No, but honestly, like, talk to me later about hooks. But the point is, if you know how the library works, which you will in a second, it pretty much works how you would expect. So yes, you can use hooks with Cassette, and yeah. Just a note that there's this package on npm called Cassette with no @ sign, and that's not me, so don't use that. Or you can. It's like for playlist management. So, and I just wanted to show this example of how Cassette is already being used in production. Cassette is the new name for it. It used to be called React Responsive Audio Player before it did things besides audio. And but it's being used in production for this podcast application, which apparently has like 5,000 users a day or 500 or something. I don't know. But the point is that they are using a combination of the different features of Cassette. They have this play pause button they're using and the progress bar, which are components which come with the Cassette. And they're also sort of integrating directly with the Cassette core package to interact and other stuff like the playback. They have a playback speed control here, which is not something that comes with Cassette. It's something they implemented on their own. But as we'll see in the demo, it's really easy to do that. So you like live demos? Yeah? Okay, so this is a fake live demo because I already wrote the code. But let's backtrack. So, you all ever heard of Sublime Text? Yeah, so there's this thing called Sublime Merge that came out, and they have like this really good Git GUI that, among other things, makes it really easy to walk through a history of commits, do a live demo like this. I love it. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we have this Create React App application, and we're going to start by just installing the Cassette player package, okay? And all we're going to do right now is we're going to import the media player component from the Cassette player library, and we're going to import the CSS sheet, and we're going to import this playlist. This is just this piece of data that has all our information about a bunch of songs or videos. And then we're just going to include that here, and that's pretty much it. So we're just rendering a component, passing it a playlist. Check that out. And oh, did I go one step too soon? Okay. This is the one I meant to check out. So this is what you get. So it's just this is what you get by default. You can seek, you can go to different tracks. And if you pass the show video prop, where you just add the show video here, then now it has video, which means like if it's an actual video, now you can, watch video. So that's pretty simple. And you can even like customize the controls you show and maybe like customize the CSS styles to resize it. So that's what we did here. We added the CSS rule. We just added this new prop to our media player to say this is the order of controls we want. You can just pass it these strings with keywords and check that out. And now we have different stuff, like we have a volume control. We can like adjust our repeat behavior. So like if I do the this thing, then if I go to the very end of the song and let it finish, it'll restart at the beginning. So you have these different controls that come with Cassette. We can add a shuffle button, and at the same time, so a shuffle button, like you can go in a random order, and you see we added this new thing that tells you what track we're on, and that's so we just added that as a custom control basically. So you can see in our controls list we have all these string keywords, but then here we actually did this thing where we passed a function. It's like a render prop, if you've ever heard of this. Basically it takes this thing called a player context, and it has all this information about like where the media is right now. And so we just reach into that, we pass some stuff like the active track index and the playlist, and then we just do this simple thing where we render that stuff in the UI. So it's really easy to use built-in controls, but also implement your own with the new version of Cassette. And I'm really tired of it resetting to the same song, track, whatever, every time we refresh the page. So now I just did this thing where Cassette makes it really easy to subscribe to a state snapshot where you can serialize and save somewhere, and then load it when you reload the app. So now, I go to this track and set the volume to here or whatever, and then I want to, in my next commit, I'm going to check out a new thing, and I'm going to refactor some stuff. I'll explain the refactor in a second, but the point is if I check this out, it's going to reload the page. But now we're in the same place we were before. So Cassette makes it super simple to do that. But so to explain this refactor we just did here, basically now what my product manager has said to me is, well, this looks good, but it would be it's kind of annoying to find the track you want to go to by just hitting the next button over and over. Wouldn't it be cool if you could like open a list of the playlist and then just select the track you want, which makes sense, right? So I want to do that, but the problem is that the way the media player component works, all that state of like what's in the media is sort of encapsulated inside of this media player component, that big UI you see there, and so you can't really access it outside. But the cool thing about Cassette is that when you want to do something like this, you can kind of split apart the internal parts and kind of pull them out. So we're going to basically implement media player like it is under the hood, which is it has this thing called a player context provider, which is the smart part from Cassette Core, which keeps track of the media state, and also a full screen context provider, which takes care of this, right? And then the media player controls, which is sort of the dumb component, as it's sometimes called, which is the UI. So we can basically refactor this so that we're just using the media player controls instead of just the media player, but otherwise it's the same. And we pull out these context providers. And you'll notice that we're not passing anything from those context providers into the media player controls. All the information that it needs from that context provider is implicitly passed through the React subtree. So that's this feature called React Context. If you don't know about it, it's basically a way to share some data across a subtree without having to explicitly pass from child to child to child to child. And as we'll see, it's actually really powerful for building APIs like this. So what we want to do now is we want to render this playlist. And so here it is. Now I can switch whatever track I'm on like this. And we'll see all I did to do that was basically I create a new component called menu, a playlist menu, which is just a new React component, and it maps over the playlist, indicates which track is active by making it bold and having the little play symbol, and it has this onSelect track index thing, which is a callback that comes from the player context, which allows us to change which track we're on. So not only does it give you data, it also gives you tools to update that data. So we can just make this simple component that reads and writes to the player context, and then we can just add it. We're not adding it to the controls list anymore. We're just adding it to this arbitrary place in the React component hierarchy. And you'll notice we didn't pass anything into it. Because here, where we use this player context filter, which is this thing from the core package, we can basically say, when you render this, just get all this data from the player context and just implicitly get that wherever you are. So we could move this wherever we want in the hierarchy, and it just reads from there. And so this is really nice for building a portable component that could be maybe used in another app with Cassette. You wouldn't have to do plumbing work to integrate. So that's cool. Now we're saying, well, isn't it annoying that when I go to select this track, I can't even see what's playing anymore? Wouldn't it be nice if the video sort of like popped up in the corner when I'm scrolling down? You've seen this on some websites, right? So what we can do is we can make this new component called a corner video display. It's super simple. It just renders this video display component that comes from the Cassette components package. And we can just add some logic to say if we're scrolled past, a certain point on the page, we're going to render that. And I think the way this works is super cool. Basically, if we're watching Big Buck Bunny, if I scroll past a certain point, now you see it in the corner of the screen playing down there. And then I scroll back up, and you notice this is it's actually still paused on the frame that it was on when we scrolled past. And then we scroll up and it resumes here. And so what's actually happening in the code is we're conditionally rendering this extra video display. And so what happens when you render two video displays in Cassette is it takes the most recently rendered one and it basically steals the video element from that other part of the page, moves it to this part of the page, and then replaces what was there with a canvas snapshot of the old video. And the really nice thing is now when we de-render that other one, it takes the video element back and returns it to the video container it was in before. And so this is a declarative way to say, oh, I want video to be displayed here, or I want video to be displayed here. And for me, that's super powerful because it sort of allows video display just to be another part of your declarative UI. And traditionally, the way that the HTML video element couples logic with presentation makes it really difficult to do this. And so one of the things I'm excited about with Cassette is that that's much simpler. And another thing we can do is we can, because it's, we can use this player context filter, we can get other information from the player context, like the current progress of the media. We can check that out, and suddenly we have this current progress of the media being displayed down here in the corner with our corner video player. So your product manager sees this, right? And they see that orange progress bar and they say, holy crap, we need that in the regular player. Why? The big problem with this player is that it's not orange. And so, with Cassette's, Cassette uses Sass for its CSS compilation. And the nice thing about that is you can actually add custom variables to really quickly, change things about the UI if you need to. So, like for example, here, what's going on here? Oh, I guess that's it. So we added. Oh, that's just we're using Sass instead of the CSS sheet. But now here, what we do is it's really simple. All we do is we import this playerstyles.css and we import the sheet there using Webpack, and we set a Sass variable so the background color is orange. And now that we do that, ta-da! I was surprised how easy that was. But anyway, another thing you can do is, so right here quickly, we're going to clean up some stuff because now your product manager has said, well, there's a little bit too much going on here. So we're just going to clean up a bit. We got rid of the volume control because it doesn't work that well on mobile. I mean, it works okay on mobile, but it's just kind of awkward. And it's like, do we really need a volume control when we can just, sorry, hold on. I'm going to check that out again because I want to. But it's like, do we really need this volume control when we have system volume? So there's a mute you can use instead, which, yeah. But we added this, we're going to add this new custom, what is this thing? Track position. Oh, I got rid of it, right. We're going to add this new custom control that's a fast forward button. Because we're saying, okay, it's, remember we had this like player, this playback speed control that was in the example app I showed you? So, oh, someone just followed me on Twitter. Thanks. But the point is that now we can add this new control that will basically take more stuff from the player context, playback rate, and there's this onset playback rate. And the cool thing here is that this is a control that's not actually, there's no version of this that comes with Cassette, but you can just create your own one, and it's really simple. You just have to take this piece of state in the setter, and you just make this thing that, supports, has to support touch, mouse, whatever. And it's just a really simple button that you add as a function here. And when you hold it down, everything goes faster. And it works on your phone, too. Where's the camera? Hey. If you start playing this, oh, whatever. Yeah. So, whatever. And you really didn't need to clap. That was weird. But what was the list? What is this part? Oh yeah, so there's another thing that you can do, which is just, this is sort of the last gimmick of the day, and then I promise I'm almost done. But let's say we have this second video player on the screen right here, and we're playing this. I want a part that has audio in it. Can you hear anything? Okay, I can't hear it. I believe you. So there's this going on, and then there's also this, and it's like, do we really need audio from two videos playing at the same time? Like, you might notice that you're actually using a lot of apps that specifically prohibit this. If you're playing audio from two videos at once, it doesn't work. So we can actually do that. There's this super simple component that you just wrap your stuff in called player context group, and its main role is just to prevent audio from two things from playing at the same time. So if we check this out, suddenly we're playing this, and if we mute this, actually, we can play the video at the same time. But as soon as we unmute this, now that video is paused because it sort of enforces this sort of thing. Yeah, so anyway, I think that's it. But yeah, that's it for the demo. But I just hopefully you kind of understand how this will allow you to really quickly prototype some different ideas in a media app and not spend a long time sort of figuring out the logic and then having to readjust it. And, yeah. Anyway, so there you go. And let's resume this part. Yeah, so the beta for this was released today at about 3:30 in the morning. And yeah, so I do need some help. So if you feel so inclined, we need things like users and feedback, user feedback. If you feel like giving me all your unfiltered first impressions using it, I would love it. Tests, examples, yeah. So we just like we need to sort of show more ways that it can be used, because as far as I'm concerned, Cassette can be used to build Spotify or build Netflix or build SoundCloud or MySpace music or whatever the hell you want. And but we sort of need to show that to make it clear. And help with documentation is always great. Or just reading the documentation and telling me if it sucks. What? Someone say something? Okay, we're good. And for the near future, we're trying to focus on accessibility. So not all this stuff could make it into the 2.0 release. We already support touch devices and keyboard navigation. Like, this is cool. Like, if you are doing this, you can pause it with your space, mute it with your space. You can skip forward and back in time with your arrows, whatever. So that's cool. But what else we don't have is we plan to add captions and subtitles. That's almost done, not quite. I needed it to be good, so couldn't make it into the beta release for 2.0, and so it'll be in 2.1.0. And we plan to add better support for screen readers, because like something that the actual native media controls actually do really well is they're accessible. They can be read by blind people. Something people often forget when they're building their own UIs for media, which is understandable because the default kind of sucks, but you often forget to add these accessibility features. So the idea is this isn't something people should have to think about. It should just come with the framework. It's being developed on GitHub. You can find the project there at benwiley4000/cassette. benwiley4000/cassette-demo-app is where you can see the source code for the demo I just gave. On Twitter, I'm at benwiley4000. On Gmail, I'm the real Ben Wiley, and my website, which was recently updated, is benwiley.org, and it's built with Cassette. So if you want to see it in action, there you go. Any questions? Oh yeah, you're allowed to clap. That's okay. Questions? Yes.
Build like
the first release, I think I built in about 36 hours. Back like in 3 years ago. And then this version, like when I started saying, okay, I'm going to build a 2.0, I'm going to make it customizable, I started that 2 years ago. So some things take longer than others. But it's sort of been like on and off again, like, oh, I care about this month. I don't care about it for 6 months. So, anything else? Yes?
Is it like your streaming media,
like a radio?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually a site using it for that. Yeah, so it does. Yes?
Kind of related to the but I don't know if you mentioned this, but where are you getting it from?
Where am I getting what? Where am I getting like the media that I was showing?
What's the source of the
Like just for the actual media files themselves? So what I did is I went on archive.org, and archive.org, you can get like direct links to their like MP3s and MP4s, whatever that they host on there. So I just, when they click the download button, you just basically take that source file and you set that source as the source in the media. So yeah, I did that. And then for the videos, I found some GitHub page where they uploaded these Blender Foundation videos like Big Buck Bunny, which are good for testing. So yeah, it's different places. For video files especially, you don't always want to host them yourself because your server might not be fast enough. Anything else? Yeah. Oh man, good question. There is sort of on my roadmap, but like a big part of me doesn't care. So, like if someone wants to make a pull request, feel free. But there's nothing on my roadmap that's like, how can I make it easier to enforce copyright law? Like that's just anyway. Yeah, you get it? Yeah. So.
Are you vertically trying to copy, right?
What?
Oh, nothing. Never mind.
Oh, okay. We can talk about that later. Anything else? Or are we good? We're good? Sweet. Thank you all. And those are the...
All right. It's time for our afternoon break. We have fresh coffee and some unhealthy snacks. for you to snack on. So we'll be back with the next talk in about a half hour.
I just went into Costco and I said, give me the most unhealthy stuff you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Thanks.
That was fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I